there, Avis. I am thrilled to have you on For Real. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Kim. I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
You know what? I've only been in person with you in Alabama,
I know.
and I look troubled when I am in 100% humidity, and you don't. And you look
Oh,
exactly the same today as you do
oh my
in
gosh.
sweaty Nauvoo. So that's really
Okay.
good for you and really
That's
unfortunate
kind
for
of you.
me.
I feel like we might need to pull up some pictures and then you can
No,
be like, oh, now I remember.
for sure not. No, you look just the same.
Very sweaty in
Um,
Nauvoo.
Oh, golly, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Here's the thing. You are an advocate, a New York Times bestselling author, a podcaster, a speaker, a mom of three. That is a long list. I'm probably forgetting some as well. That's a long list. And I want to ask you about Heather before the list. So
Mm-hmm.
before you became the voice of so many parents and so many kids through the Lucky Few Foundation, were you the kid on the playground who at 8 years old was telling the bully to back off? Is that just part
Mm.
of your wiring?
You know what? Kim, no one's ever asked me that, nor have I reflected on that before, or that much. I was the kid who was prone to being bullied.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like I've been in therapy for years, and one of my very first experiences of like, get your childhood wound. It took me to fifth grade, in a scenario where my friend group decided that I could no longer be in it
Mm,
and like switched on me. And it was this big,
mm,
embarrassing moment for me.
horrible.
So then
Horrible.
that kind of followed. I always was like in the group, like the popular group, but the least popular, like the easiest to dispose of or
Mm,
to make the person that
pick
they're
off.
going to leave
Yep.
out. Yeah.
Yep.
So social experiences are that of being the one
Mm,
that was undervalued and left out, but still in the group.
that surprises me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I only know you as an adult. If only we could
Yeah.
encourage all of our children that this is temporary, this
Mm-hmm.
situation. You can end up finding your voice and you won't even recognize your voice in a few
Yeah.
years. So do you think the fifth grade situation informs the way that you approach your work now? How often do you think about the
Absolutely.
fifth grade age,
Yeah, no,
Heather?
no, she's there. I think that at the same time, I always had a heart for the underdog. When I was real little, I was crushed at the idea of homelessness, like crushed,
Ah,
or kids hungry in parts of the world. I mean, it kept me up at night as a little girl.
mm,
My parents
mm.
said I would just pray on my knees for
How about
like
that?
children starving in certain countries,
Wow.
and wanting to. So I had a heart for the underdog
Yeah.
and just for people in general. And then the thing that has changed in me over the years, where there's still so much insecurity there, is using my voice,
Mm,
um, and standing up as an advocate and as an ally for marginalized people groups. And so I wish I could go back and like tell that Heather, to I don't know, I don't want to put shame on her, but there was a part of me that wanted to be bold, but it took me a long time. I was
sure.
well into my young adult years before I was able to
Mm,
step more into like, I think the essence of me,
mm.
in boldness and be the advocate that, yeah, the people know today. It took me some time for sure.
Hmm. It occurs to me as you're talking that for some reason the bully or the push around muscle seems to develop much more quickly than the compassion
Hmm.
empathy muscle. And I don't know if that is chicken or egg. I need to think about that. But the people that kind of come into my orbit and I get to talk to or read books by, though, that muscle of being able to really fully inhabit the shoes of somebody else tends to be a fairly deeply rooted one that
Hmm.
takes a while to grow. And so, from an outsider's perspective, it seems like you have been growing that muscle for a really long time and are
Hmm.
able to help other people identify and grow that. So, I also wish you could talk to fifth grade Heather and say, just wait, just take a beat. Before
Yeah.
becoming a mom, you were a special education teacher.
Hmm.
And you have spoken about the narrative shift behind you for our YouTubers. We can see even on the wall, you have a sign that says narrative shifter. And you have spoken about the shift that you had to make once you were mom to Mason and Truly in August. Those are your three kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the before and the after, because we have a lot of listeners who are
Mm-hmm.
somewhere along that line. And I'd
Sure.
love for you to be a guide.
Yeah. I'll start by saying this. In our home, we say all the time, you can't know what you don't know.
Mm,
And that statement is full of grace
yeah.
and goodness and kindness. You cannot know what you don't know. We also talk about being lifelong learners. We are committed to lifelong learning and growing. And those two things offer a lot of grace. So I was always, like I said, drawn to the underdog. In high school, I spent a lot of time in the special education classroom as a TA. And I just got to know people with disabilities and had such a love. So I went to school knowing I was going to be a special education teacher. And I was. I taught at the high school level. I taught in a life skills program. So it's a separate program on a larger campus, 2,500 kids on the campus. There were 3 classrooms in our program. Each had maybe 15 students, all with pretty significant or multiple disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and some with multiple disabilities. And I loved it. It was my dream job. The population is my absolute favorite. I loved the families. I mean, I loved my job. And I had yet to do what I can recognize now, the undoing of ableism in my life. And
Mm,
so ableism, like racism, or, sexism, ableism is this idea that non-disabled people, like being non-disabled is better than being disabled. And our systems and our world and our structures are built on that idea. And so even as a teacher, I didn't know how to fully honor my students as I would if they didn't have disabilities. There was a bit of the amount of times that people said to me, like, wow, you're a special education teacher. That's amazing. That's wonderful. Like the accolades that came along with that felt really good.
mm,
At the time, I couldn't name this. I wouldn't have been able to see it.
yeah.
Um, I think a good, real quick story is I remember one year a new student coming in as a freshman and his parents meeting with me for the first time. And we're talking about what their hopes are for that school year. And they said, we really want him to learn to read. And my thought was, oh, if he doesn't know how to read, he doesn't know how to read. High schoolers don't learn how to read. So it's like, no, we don't teach that. And I look back and I'm appalled at that person because I'm like, hold on a second. That is so limiting. Like, what was I thinking? But that
Mm,
that kind of mindset was
mm,
definitely a part of how I approach my teaching and educating. I I didn't see my students' limitations as, how could I say this? Maybe it was more something to fix or overcome than a part of their
mm,
wholeness.
mm,
And I loved him so much. So once I had a daughter with Down syndrome, um, and then I became immersed in the disability space in such a different way because she was my kid and started to experience the discrimination that she experiences every day of her life just for being disabled. She has Down syndrome. And so we talk about like she wears her disability on her face. You can
mm,
see that she has a disability. And then realizing quickly this whole narrative around what it means to have Down syndrome that's so either negative or there's like a trope around it, or it's like precious, but condescendingly so. And I'm like, wait a second, my daughter, her Down syndrome is not something to overcome. Like a couple times I had strangers when she was a baby, like pray for her to be healed of Down syndrome at a church event. And I'm like, get your hands off her. Like, this is not what we're doing. So, but I had to then ask myself the question of, wait, why not? Like, what are we doing here? Who is she? Who did God make her to be? And it took me some time to recognize her full humanity as a disabled person.
mm,
And that started to like undo this ableism in my life of it's
mm,
better to be non-disabled than disabled, to look at that narrative and undo it. And that's my difference now to when I was teaching.
mm.
I didn't understand. I didn't even know that I thought that I
Yeah.
thought it was better to be non-disabled than disabled. But the system believed that. The school system, every system we're in believes that is built upon that lie. And so I was functioning within a system and within a narrative that I heard my whole life that there was no reason for me to question it until my kids came into my life.
I that is such a powerful, personal, and hard won story that you just told, because you begin on that trajectory with every beautiful intention.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't the story of someone who was, clueless and meaning to be, or who had decided that she was going to plant a flag and then had to dismantle the flag. It was much quieter shift. And I feel that in my bones, because I know for sure that there are folks listening who are perking one ear and thinking, wait, what? She was a special education teacher and she feels like she had to dismantle or untangle a lot of the things that she thought about that. So I'm so grateful for the way you talk about that, and that you probably had to do some serious work and re-examining to be able to speak so fluently about that. You have said that as a parent and a parent advocate of kids with Down syndrome, we must tell and hear stories about the entire road. And you just alluded to that there are highs and there are lows. And I've noticed in my own storytelling and my own story intaking in my life, we really love very clear definitions and very clear boxes. Yeah. So we love to hear about the person with the Down syndrome that wrote a book or ran a marathon. And you're saying, yes, we need to know that story. What a great story. And also about the child who is having a hard time reading or writing her name. The gold medalist and the person who hasn't gotten a gold star. And I want you to talk about why that full story spectrum is important.
Yeah. I've been doing advocacy work in the Down syndrome space for 2 decades now. And then in the disability space at large. And we're in this interesting moment in the last few years with Down syndrome. I'll talk specifically about Down syndrome in that, because we have social media, so maybe in the last 10 years, but especially the last few years, there's so much access to stories and access to tell a story and to hear a story, right? And what's continued to happen in our Down syndrome community, and I talk about this a lot, and it sometimes makes people unhappy, but what continues to happen is we continue to tell the story of the person, the hero with Down syndrome. You just described a couple of people, right? Like, it's like when a new mom gets a diagnosis, you're told, and I've heard from dozens and dozens of moms or parents who have gotten this same idea, don't worry that your child has Down syndrome, because look at everything they can do. Look at this person who has a driver's license. This person got married. This person held a job. This person went to college. This person ran a marathon. This person, I mean, the list goes on and on. This is an actress. Don't worry that your kid has Down syndrome, because look at what they can do. And what that is saying is your child's value and worth and goodness is going to be connected to what they can do. So what I want to see happen is, don't worry that your child has Down syndrome. You are going to love this child, and they are going to love you in bigger ways than you would ever be able to imagine. Period.
Yeah.
Right? Like, can we build our relationships on that? And so we're not doing that in the larger story, because this is why I think there was a pendulum. It's a pendulum shift. So I have friends with Down syndrome in their 40s and 50s, but in their 40s, I talked to their moms, and when they were born 40 years ago, the doctors and the medical people were saying, you shouldn't even parent this child. They will never know your name. They will never amount to anything. They will never hold a job. Like, they'll be such a burden on you and your family. Let's just institutionalize them.
Wow.
This was a very common narrative 40, 50 years. This was the narrative 40, 50, 60 years ago. So it makes sense to me that parents are like, hang on a second.
Right.
Not only were you wrong, look what my kid can do.
Look how wrong you were.
Look how wrong you were.
This is the shift to the other side.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So I think the pendulum is still there.
Okay.
We're still trying to prove that people with Down syndrome deserve to live, because there's also this whole the truth that the majority of women who get an in utero diagnosis for Down syndrome choose to terminate, somewhere between like 70 and 90%, depending on what you read. So we're like fighting for the life of a people group to actually exist in the world. And a lot of people haven't done the work. A lot of the advocates on the front line who don't, the non-disabled advocates and the parents, haven't had an opportunity or haven't chosen to step into the work of that undoing ableism. So the story that they end up telling in order to like uplift their child is a story that is one that is ableist, in that it's saying, oh no, it's better to be more like people with
Yeah.
Down syndrome
Right.
than to have a disability and be limited. Does that all make sense?
Absolutely. It
Okay.
absolutely does. And I'm wondering how you hold that tension, not just as a mom, but as an outward facing mom. So you have a lot of people paying attention to you in your speaking and on social media. And I've wondered about how you decide what stories to tell personally. I mean, I think you and I could probably have a long conversation about what it feels like to raise a family, but also have a sort of public, again, outward facing us.
Right, right.
And our kids are a part of the stories that we tell. And so how do you decide which of the stories of your kids to share? Because honestly, I'm just saying, not any microphone on, that often feels overwhelming to me because my story is not theirs. And it feels a little bit intimidating to decide for them, this is going to be public for you. And I'm guessing you've felt that tension as well. How do you navigate that?
Totally. And it's all, I mean, a decade ago when I started sharing my kids' stories on social media, I started sharing Macy like a one a day. This is what it's like to raise a child with Down syndrome. And she was a baby. I'm not asking her permission, right? Like, or she was a little girl.
Right.
And then if I could go back and do it again, I'd probably do it differently because I just shared so much of her story for her. And I that's something I ask myself all the time. I would say, if anyone who's been following us for a long time, and if you want to look at what I was sharing 5, 6, 7 years ago, it's so much less now. I mean, my kids are teenagers too. You know, it's like, I got to a point where I started asking him every time, is it okay if I share this? Can I post this? And I don't know when that, I think that's disability or not, right? Like there's babies, and this is a whole other podcast. There's people who won't post their babies' pictures. It's a whole thing. We've never as a human race dealt with this before, right?
Totally.
With social media.
We're all newbies.
We're all figuring this out.
Yep.
But it is, in terms of what I think you're asking, is under that narrative of like the best way to have Down syndrome, the stories that we share or don't share, and how I hold that tension. Really, the way that I've gone about it and where I've landed is the foundation on which I share the story. And I hope I'm clear in that foundation, in that my child with the breath in their lungs, a heartbeat in their chest, the ability to give and receive love is an asset, is a treasure for those reasons, period. Now, let me share something awesome with you, because I have Macy, my oldest, who her disability has created significant limitations for her. And then my son, August, who has Down syndrome also, he's 6 years younger than Macy. Within his diagnosis, he's very able. His like language alone, he can articulate, he can sit down and have a conversation. He's like, can talk to you. And Mason, her language is limited. She'll want to hang out and talk, but you've got to really pay attention, you know, and get to know her. And it's just interesting. Like, if August was my first, I think I would have stayed on that train of, I'm just going to tell these stories of amazing things people with Down syndrome do.
Very interesting. That's so interesting.
Because he has the ability to, and Mason doesn't, right? So under my roof, I've had to really face it head on of like, oh, again, anything I share is on that starting point of, you exist in this world and your existence is the thing we're celebrating. Yeah. You don't have to be or do one more thing than who you are right now, waking up today. And now let me tell you the story.
That's, yeah. I mean, that is beautiful. It actually reminds me of the baptism of Jesus, when God says, I'm so pleased with you. This is my son. I'm so pleased with him. Before one miracle, before one fantastic feeding of the 5,000, he hadn't performed in our eyes yet. And God said, I'm so pleased. This is my son.
And for people who have a faith background and love Jesus. I mean, this is also the story we're told of grace, right? Like
That's
there's
right.
nothing to that we can do to earn it or to lose it. And so that is, I think that's what's been such a one of the biggest gifts of raising kids with disability is this front row seat to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like an invitation into it in a way that is just so immersive of God's grace and love for me, right? For everybody. Like if I claim it to be true for my kids, then what does that mean for me and my neighbor, right? And you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm in. We are both mildly obsessed with Hope Heals
We
Camp.
like it there.
We love it. I think I was at camp the first time your family was there because I remember hubbub, hubbub, the lucky
Oh my
few are
gosh.
arriving. And I'm so embarrassed to tell you that I did not know who the lucky few or
I
more
think
than
that's
few were.
great.
And my daughter became friends with your daughters. And then I knew Augie because of his remarkable Harry Styles impersonation. I don't know if you remember this. This was like, I can't
It
remember
was our
which
Harry
one it
Styles
was. It was
summer.
a Harry
It
Styles
was a
summer.
Harry
It was
Styles summer.
so great. But we were busy. You were doing your own thing. I was doing my thing. We didn't get a chance to talk. And then not long after camp, I was walking in Jordan Creek Mall with Thea and passed the Gap. And
Oh,
your
that's right.
kids were on this like
I know. Look,
20-foot
this
banner.
is that
I remember,
picture.
yes, so
Yeah.
awesome. I remember pausing. Thea was slapped like when you're in a car with your mom and she puts her hand in front of your
Yeah.
chest to help you not go through the. She did that to me. She was like, "Oh, that's the Avis family," and so that was just such a
That's
delightful thing. I've
cool.
never known a Gap model before. So that I just want you to know at camp that we weren't thinking about Gap modeling at the moment. We did mention the sweat, but we talk a lot at camp, and I know you do in your life, about the ministry of reciprocity. So the idea that typically abled people are not the saviors. You've kind of
Mm,
already touched on that with your early work, or on some sort of mission trip to serve folks
right.
experiencing disability. Instead, we are all part of this beautiful and reciprocal relationship with God
Mhm.
and each other. In fact, to take that to its fullest expression, when we don't accept or enter into the
Mhm.
gift of friendship with differently abled people, we miss out on so
Mhm.
much, including the very heart of God. This
Yep.
is not a small thing that we forfeit. So
Mhm.
I'd love for you to talk with me about what we can't know. And you just segued with the idea of
Mm.
grace. What can't we know about God without being in a relationship with someone who is experiencing disability? Because I think it's not just
Mm.
this is not a
Mm.
neutral statement. This is not a neutral position.
Sure.
I think we actually forfeit and give up a lot if we just decide, well, that's not for me, or it's too
Mhm.
scary, or it's too
Mhm.
intimidating, or I'm going to say the wrong thing. What are we giving up?
Mhm. Yeah. Um, the the couple things that come to mind right away are not like they're kind of bigger, higher level. That whole idea of we are image bearers of God, and just like what you're saying, we if we do not have all different types of people made in the image of God in our lives, then we can't know the fullness of God. And I don't know that we ever get to know the fullness of God because it's so
Right.
full and it's so big, right?
Right.
But um Mason and August, my kids with Down syndrome, when God created them, he made every cell in their body with an extra chromosome.
Mm.
I feel like purposefully with joy. Like this is I'm doing this because this is a part of me.
Yeah.
So when we look at disabled people as something to fix or something to change or a prayer request, and this is complicated, okay? I'm not saying that there's not something there. It's very nuanced. It's very gray.
Mm.
There's no black and white in disability, in my opinion. But when we're thinking of someone created in their birth, in their mother's wombs as an image bearer of God, and they don't look like you or act like you or think like you, then to be in relationship with them is such a gift because we get to see the image of God in a way that we wouldn't otherwise. It's expansive. So
Mm.
that is the other word, like relationship with people with
Mm.
disability, that reciprocal relationship. I'm not better than you. I'm not here to serve you. You have limitations that could use my skill set, but I have limitations that could use your skill
Right.
set, right? Like that
Yeah.
idea. And it's not fair. I think within disability, like just like I said, there's no It's not black or white. It's not fair. Fair is restricting. It's two ways. It's this or that. There's nothing in my experience in the disability space that is ever this or that, one or the
Mm,
other, yes
mm,
or no. Fair is out the window.
mm,
But what happens when we toss out fairness is how expansive it all gets. And
mm.
that just is such a connection to who God is.
I love that.
God is only expansive. And so when we
Yeah.
put ourselves in relationships with someone that we're like, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable because I have no idea what
Mm,
this person is saying
mm,
or why they're acting this way. That's such an opportunity to pause, to learn, to grow, to expand in our understanding,
mm.
right? Of what it means to be human, of
Yeah.
what it means to be different. It's all very expansive.
That is my new favorite word. I'm going to start using it constantly.
Perfect. Good.
You are actually a queen of really good, just fantastic sticky words. Should I tell you some of them?
My phrases. Yes, I want to hear them.
I love, well, narrative shifter is one. I love, you talk about, and you have sweatshirts and really cute swag actually that say everyone belongs.
Everyone belongs.
Um, yeah, that's a humdinger. And I feel like we can't hear that enough.
Mm.
And then you've used this phrase of shouting her worth or shouting
Mm.
his worth. Particularly with your kiddos with kids with Down syndrome. I think a lot about the proverb that says that the tongue has the power of life and death, either one. The
Mm.
tongue holds
Mm.
that power. The same little muscle we can use to absolutely breathe life or stop it.
Mm.
That's both chilling and very motivating for me.
Yeah.
So when you're using your tongue, when you're shouting your worth or shouting the worth of your kids, you're giving life. But
Thanks,
I'm
Kim.
thinking it also is requiring a lot of you. I would think
Yeah.
that you get hoarse and
Mm.
that there is a cost
Yeah.
to shouting the worth of all of your children, mine too. And I
Mm-hmm.
bet you get really weary. So
Mm.
I'm wondering, how are you? And I'm
Mm.
wondering how you keep using your tongue for life instead of death when it's costly.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying all that, Kim. I'm weary. We have met at this moment in a weary,
Mm,
weary time.
mm,
And I think I'm asking myself the same
mm,
questions. Yeah. And the idea behind the phrase shout their worth is because it requires that volume
ah,
and that is advocacy is not necessarily like a whispering thing. I think there's power in that too, but it's very clear like, oh, people aren't listening. We gotta say this loudly and clearly and repetitively. That's just the facts, like this is just how this works. Um, and it's my kids, and so it's real personal. And it's all so dependent on the people around you. So, I'm tired right now. Stuff is really hard with my oldest in school. And we've had great years. And then everyone changes, new teachers, new
yeah.
admin, new all the people. And it's like, oh my gosh, all of that educating we did, all that learning together that we did as a team, all that like understanding each other and where we're coming from. I did that. They did it that one year, but the next year, I'm moving Macy along, right? So we're starting from scratch. We're starting from scratch because it's a topic. I think that the topic of seeing and embracing the humanity in people who are different from us, whatever the different is something that we just need to work on.
Yeah.
And like really hard to
Yeah.
work on that.
We've got
And
some ways to
so,
go.
yeah, we got some ways to go. Um, and then, but the disability community, I'll also say the disability community just has a horrific history that really hasn't been addressed.
Mm,
And there's a lot going on in the disability narrative that's so unbelievably harmful historically today. Like I said, systems are built upon lies and narratives that just aren't true, and ignorance. that we're just having to work so hard to tell the bigger, truer story. So yeah, you caught me at a weary moment. I know it's not always like this. I think there is a lot of hope in that. Like, I know that this is not, we haven't landed. Um, but I hesitated sending my daughter to school today. Like, I think we're just gonna go move to London. I don't know that London's not less ableist, but it sounds fun. I know.
But they talk cool.
I
They
know.
have cool accents.
I'm like, can we go
Yeah.
somewhere that's not here ever? I don't know.
Listen, I want you to be able to say that out loud because you know that there are many parents listening who are navigating the world with their own disability or with a disability in their home with their child. And to your point of earlier, if there's only moonbeams and rain shine, that is actually a very destructive story to tell.
Yeah.
I have very dear friends who are just so tired. They're so tired of always feeling like they're the educator or they're the warrior or they're holding the shield or the spear or just holding a kid while she cries. That's an exhausting spot to be.
Yeah.
You have said that churches and schools in particular are often Everests for making sure everyone belongs and that belonging does not mean segregation. If you had the chance to talk over coffee with a parent at your school or in your community or my community who has never had to navigate an IEP or a special ed classroom, an advocacy meeting with the principal, which are things that can be a full-time job for a parent of someone experiencing disability, what would you say to that person to help them understand your experience of throwing elbows for your kids? And I'm asking this during a time where you probably are thinking, you know what, go read a book. I'm not going to coffee with you. You know what I mean? I'm sure I'm saying that. You're not saying that. I would feel that at sometimes that I don't want, do I always have to be the one to go first? But let's say I'm hitting you in a moment where that's not exhausting. What do you wish more people knew in that space? The folks who just don't have that experience and are curious and wanting to do better for each other.
Yeah. I'll say, I think that when I'm entering into conversation with someone who is genuinely curious and genuinely out of goodness wants to know more, that doesn't feel exhausting. That's like refreshing. Like, let's have that conversation. Yes, please. The thing about that question, Kim, is it could be talking for hours to try to help them understand what my day-to-day is, what my week-to-week is, like when we're coming up to IEP time, like what's happening, what it's taking out of me, all that. I just think what I would say to that mom is, I need you to believe me and know that my child's value and worth is being questioned at our school. And there's very few people besides me who are saying, oh, no. Who she is as she is an asset, and I want her here.
Wow.
Now, if you could go to that school and say, I want this person here interacting with my child. I want what can I do to have more Macy in my child's life at school? That really, I think if I could just say one thing, it would be that. I need more people in the school. I need the teachers, the kids, I need people to say, oh, we want you here as you are.
Yeah.
We're so glad you're here. Now, this thing happened and it was really hard and we're not sure what to do. Can we figure that out? But let's start with, we're so glad you're here. What an asset to our community, to my child's life. That's what I would say.
That's great. That's great. And I hear in that, I'm sure you have other versions too, but I want that to be a really loud part of this conversation, that when you say everyone belongs, everyone is needed and everyone belongs.
Yeah, for sure.
So the disability community, the advocacy community cannot do all the work required by themselves. We can't just say to the mom who's dealing with the IEP season, oh, I hope that goes okay for you.
Right.
If that's not your experience, you have to get in there.
Yeah.
and say exactly what you said. I heard you tell this story. I did a little deep dive on you. Try not to be super worried about that. But I
I like
saw
it. I like it.
really cute videos of Truly when she was very young. And I only know her
Oh
as a very
God.
polished singer
There you go.
and just a doll. And I didn't know her when she didn't have teeth. But it was really fun to look at your life before. And there was I just saw this clip of you telling this story about Macy and her first dance recital.
Hmm.
And you made it all the way through a pretty challenging story. And the part where you broke and the part where you cried
Hmm.
was when it came to a point where another little girl said, "I want to dance with Macy." That that reaching out is what's going to get us to a better place.
Yeah.
That willingness for all of us to say, actually, yes, not only do we belong, I'm going to shout her worth and his worth too.
Hmm.
I hope our listeners are hearing that loud and clear.
Yeah. I
Uh,
appreciate that, Kim.
well, I hate it that you're weary. I mean,
No,
I think we
it's
all,
life, right? And
yeah,
it's so layered. I
yeah,
think
totally.
I'm in good company. Like, yes, I've got these other layers of my kids with disability, and we've got these IPs, and there's school stuff happening that's unfortunate, and that. But all that aside, I mean, that's just one piece of this layer of,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like,
There's,
I honestly, when I say what is going on, I want to answer it right away and go, oh, we're missing each other's humanity.
mm,
We're not seeing it.
right.
Oh my gosh, how many of the people right now who are causing harm to others, they've never met Macy, right? Like they've never had to like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I've questioned your value forever. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to change.
Mm-hmm.
You're amazing. Maybe I need to change.
Right.
I don't know. We're missing it.
We're missing it. I have hope that we will not always miss it. And
I do
that's
too.
the reason why I continue doing this
Yeah.
podcast, because I feel like there's power in words. I wasn't the first to
Yeah.
say that. Okay. I have one final question for you, Heather
Okay.
Avis.
Hmm.
I ask all of my guests a very nerdy book question. I would like to hear from you about a book that you have recommended over and over through the years. You can take a second to think about it.
Okay.
Or a book that you're really excited to read that you haven't yet. We're
Okay.
just very much book people here. What say you?
All I want to do is sit down and talk about books.
Oh,
One
good.
of my very favorite, I have like top 5 books that I just,
Okay, just hit us. We'll
I'll hit
take
you
them
with a few.
all.
I'll hit you
Link
with a
them
few.
all.
Okay. I loved Barbara Kingsolver's Animal Vegetable Miracle. Have you read this?
Okay, that's one I haven't read by her, and I do love
Okay.
her.
It's nonfiction.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
memoir. Because she's a
wonderful.
fiction. She mostly
Yeah,
writes
yeah,
fiction.
totally.
It is so good.
Okay, on the list
Animal
immediately.
Vegetable Miracle, one of my favorite books of all time.
Wonderful. Okay.
There's a author, Andrew Solomon, and he wrote a book called Far from
Far
the
from the
Tree
tree. It's on
that
my
reads,
list.
okay, it reads like a textbook. It's like 700 pages.
Okay, good. Good to know.
Well,
Maybe
I'm
that's
sorry,
why it's been only on the list. Okay.
sorry, it feels like a textbook. I am normally, my go-to is fiction. I want to read a
Okay.
novel.
Okay.
I don't want to self-help anything. I don't want science. I'm like, give me a good fiction story.
Right.
But he writes it in such an approachable way. And essentially he takes 10 different people groups who have experienced some kind of marginalization. So there's a lot of disability, but it's also like people in prison. There's 10. And each person, he does this deep dive on learning about and telling the stories of people experiencing whatever that is.
I've heard
Oh my
great
gosh.
things about
Oh my
that
gosh.
book.
There's
So,
a Netflix documentary that came out that
oh,
just like scratches the surface of the book. I
okay.
mean, you got to read the book and
Okay.
it feels intimidating, but it's an easy read. It's
Okay, great.
enthralling.
That's
I
awesome.
love it.
Definitely on the list.
And then I'll just do one more, and I think everyone's read this. The Giver. It's
Oh,
a 5th grade
Lois
book.
Lowry.
Lois Lowry. That
Yes.
book changed my life.
It did? It's dystopian
Whenever-
bent? That's
Yes.
awesome. It's a great
Whenever
book.
I
Everyone
read
should read
it,
that
I
book, yeah.
remember sitting in my room and being faced with the idea that everything, like a lot of what I believe, might not actually be the whole story.
Mm.
Like as a kid, like
Totally. It's a
whoa.
mind blower.
Yes. That's one of my favorite books of all time. I think because it was so formational. So if you haven't read that, and then, oh gosh, well, I'll just do one more.
This was
Eli Wiesel's Night, which is a hard one too.
Yeah. That's
but really important.
I think I would not say this about most books, but I think every human being should read that book. It's a beautiful, beautiful book.
I think so too.
A hard wrought one.
I love that I hardly gave anything light and novelish, but I'm just
realizing. No, I'm into all of it. I mean, you send me, we have similar tastes, so go ahead and send me all your recs every time.
What's your book? What's one right now that you would, that you have read, that's your favorite?
No one's ever asked me that back to me.
I need to know, Kim. I want your whole list.
Well, I just got the chance to talk with one of my favorite novelists. That's Sean Dietrich. He also goes by Sean of the South, and I love his book Kinfolk, and he also has a new novel out, but he writes non and fiction, and I just love all the stuff he reads. I've been dipping into some Mary Oliver poetry, and I'm not usually a poetry person, but it's been a really good spot for me, at least recently. And I would say for novels, golly, I'd have to look at my timeline on my Libby app. I do a lot of audiobooks right now because I just seem to not be able to sit down as much as I used to. But this is actually not audio. I really like this author named J. Ryan Straddle. He is a Midwestern guy, and I love everything he writes. I laugh a lot, and I also cry. And that, to me, that's a humdinger of a book, if you can laugh and cry. So J. Ryan Straddle. I read The Lager Queen of Minnesota most recently, and it was a really beautiful story. So
love it.
This is so fun. No one asked me that. I got to be ready next time. Maybe people start asking me this question. Heather, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time in a wearying season, for using your voice to shout the worth of all people. It makes a difference. You're doing beautiful things. Sweet. Just in case you're not hearing the echo back right now, I want to say that out loud. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Kim. That means a lot.
It's 1,000,000% true. I hope you go hug all three of your really remarkable kids. And I hope to see you again in Sweatfest, Nauvoo, Alabama.
I hope so too. Or somewhere. Wouldn't that be fun?
We could see each other not sweating. That would be another option.
That could be an option.
A cleaner one. Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Kim.